Hey, welcome back. I love doing the show. I love talking to like-minded people in the world, not just you, our viewers, but of course, newsmakers. I enjoy interviewing people across the country. You've gotten to know some of them. We have them on a regular basis. But in the back of my mind, I think, are we just in an echo chamber? Am I just talking to people that I know will generally be on my side of things? And that is one of the values of a public opinion poll, because as the public part of public opinion poll shows, you're going outside your friend group. That's why you need a statistically valid sample size. You need enough people that on average, it's going to reflect what the larger population says. It's a good gut check. It's a good reality check that you're not off course. And this next story will show you exactly what I mean. Look at the headline on the taxpayers.com website. Poll shows 7 in 10 Canadians oppose CBC bonuses. When I was growing up, people used to say the Canadian identity, what's that? Well, it's being not American. I didn't think that was a good answer. People sometimes said it's our Medicare system. You don't hear that a lot anymore. But one of the things some people actually claim is that the CBC keeps us together, represents us. I don't think that was ever true, but astonishingly, its viewership falls year after year, even though their budget grows and the Canadian population grows. I don't know how you can do that in a growing population, have a shrinking viewership when you have a monopoly, when you're forced onto every cable package. But what I love about this story today, and in about a minute, I'm going to introduce our speaker on the subject, our interviewee, is that this confirms that all the liberal blather and all the media party blather about the CBC being an absolutely essential institution, people see through that now. Joining me now to talk about this is the man who commissioned the poll, and I credit him for that, is our friend Franco Terrazzano, who is the boss over at the Taxpayers Federation. Franco, first of all, good for you for coming up with the idea, because it's a reality check, isn't it? Because who do you believe? Taxpayers advocates or the establishment? What do real Canadians think? Well, this poll shows the answer, doesn't it?
Well, it sure does, right? I mean, Canadians are just sick and tired of the government taking our money and handing out big bonus checks to the fat cats at the state broadcaster. Now, to rewind for 1 second, you folks will remember that the CBC just rubber stamped another new batch of bonuses to the tune of $18 million. $18 million in bonuses this year. Last year was $15 million. The year before that, it was $16 million
so it's
in
going
bonuses.
Up. They're actually giving them more this year than before. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's all taxpayer-funded bonuses. Remember, folks, as you struggle to afford a package of ground beef or just to go to the gas station and fuel up, remember that the government is taking your money and giving it to the executives and manager at the CBC on your dime. Now, going back to 2015, the CBC's taxpayer-funded bonuses have cost you $132 million, right? So here's why we decided to commission the poll. Because they make you pay for their bonuses, but they've never asked you if you support their bonuses. So we decided to ask Canadians. And this Leger poll shows that 7 in 10 Canadians are against the CBC bonuses. The vast majority of Canadians want the government to end these bonuses. But it gets worse for the CBC and the federal government because, Ezra, if you remove the undecideds, then 81% of Canadians don't support these bonuses at the state broadcaster.
Yeah, I'm looking at your stats here, and this is from Leger, which is actually one of the largest Canadian pollsters, very credible. We've used Leger before. I trust them. Only 16% of Canadians positively say, no, pay the bonuses. I was just reading, I was skipping ahead in your press release here a little bit. You quote the unlikeliest source to support you. I mean, if I had to make a list of the most die-hard CBC supporters in the country, we'd put the Liberal Party in there. But then there's this obscure lobby group that is always quoted by the CBC. They call themselves Friends of Canadian Broadcasting. They're so connected to the government and the CBC. It's basically like a puppet saying, like it's a ventriloquist doll. Do you like the CBC? Oh, I love the CBC. It's called Friends of Canadian Broadcasting. Even they are outraged. What did they say?
Well, yeah, even that organization, that advocacy group, if we can call them that, even they have spoken out against the bonuses at the CBC, something to paraphrase as it's unbefitting of a national broadcaster. So look, the government continuing to rubber stamp these bonuses at the CBC. I mean, there is opposition among Canadians, no matter which party or political ideology that they may have. Right. Here's the thing, why in the world is a state broadcaster, a crown corporation, which essentially is a part of the federal government, one way or another, takes more than $1 billion from taxpayers every single year? Why in the world would they be paying bonuses? And remember, folks, you're not just paying for big bonus checks, you're also paying for big paychecks. The number of CBC staffers taking a six-figure salary has increased by 231% under the Trudeau government.
Yeah. You know, it's party time if you're part of the inside club here. Things have never been better. They've never made more money. They've never had more power if you're on their team. But this poll you commissioned shows that at least 70% of people realize they're on the outs. They're not inside with the party. What's so incredible about this is that the CBC boss, Catherine Tate, lied about it, actually told Parliament, no, there's no bonuses. We don't even use that phrase. I think they had some goofy phrase about management and incentives, or they were trying to even cover it up. I'm hopeful in my bones that if Pierre Poilievre wins the next election, something's going to change here, because I have never seen a politician at that level of credibility, as in he, according to every poll that's been published for the last year, looks like he may win the next election. I've never seen a politician at that I mean, Maxime Bernier, who I have a lot of affection for, he says it all the time, but he's not on the precipice of becoming prime minister. So Pierre Poilievre, very frequently, it's one of his number one applause lines in speeches, said he's going to defund the CBC. It's almost like Donald Trump campaigning in 2016 about building the wall. He says it every time. And my point to you, Franco, is you say something 1,000 times, you make a lot of promises. How would he keep that promise? Have you done some thinking? If we were to sell the CBC, shut down the CBC, defund the CBC, each of those are a little bit different. Has the Taxpayers Federation given any thought to, well, how would that work? What would the mechanics of it be? Would you just sell it? Would you shut it down? Would you break it up and sell the pieces? Do you guys have any opinions on that? I sure hope Pierre Poilievre is thinking this through, because that's going to be a promise people want him to keep day one.
So Ezra, I have a couple thoughts on that. So maybe don't let me get too far astray. But, number one, whenever you have an advocacy group or maybe a political opposition party that is saying cut spending, the establishment politicians, the establishment bureaucrats, they want to drag you into the weeds. Right. Their tactic is to try to make Canadians believe it's so tactically hard or so tactically impossible that you just can't cut that spending. But when it comes to the CBC, the government could essentially immediately defund it. Okay, so what would have to happen is a couple steps. But number one, you got to just cut the flow of tax dollars going to the state broadcaster, right? And it's the politicians, it's cabinet, they're the ones who control the public purse strings. So the most important thing, I think, for your audience, Ezra, to remember is don't get sucked into the technicalities. Okay. It can happen, it should happen, and we have to keep pressure on this government or a future Poilievre government, if that is to happen, to actually live up to the promises that Mr. Poilievre has made, because they're good promises to defund the CBC. Now, in terms of all the assets, the buildings and stuff, there's a couple different things you could do. Number one, you could sell it. That would be our preferred line of going. You could turn it into housing, make it available for housing for people to buy voluntarily. But, Ezra, let me just add one more thing here. Not only has Mr. Poilievre said he's going to defund the CBC, but on the Canadian Taxpayers podcast, he even said that he would end the bonuses for failing government authorities, which include not just the CBC, but also the Bank of Canada, because this type of this type of extravagance and bonuses is happening all across the federal government. Yeah.